I recently did a 6-part series talking about Cloudland and Lisa Frank and everything that happened. It's kind of complicated and it's a lot, and a lot of people are new to this story. And they think it's happening in real time. I mean, it is and it isn't. Here's a timeline and a breakdown of events, okay? This all started in 2017. That's the year I turned my 750 square foot studio apartment into what I call Cloudland. I completely transformed the space. 2017 to 2018, Cloudland goes viral. I get lots of press, and it completely changes my career. In 2018, Lisa Frank takes notice and starts following me and interacting with me on Instagram. In 2019, Lisa Frank, Hotels.com, and my building owners make a Lisa Frank themed pop-up hotel across the street from Cloudland, featuring a very similar layout and an extremely similar design as Cloudland, even copying things like furniture and concept completely. In 2019, my rent is refused, and ultimately I am forced to leave Cloudland, my home, which basically sent me into a deep depression as well as ruined my entire career. In 2020, I publicly called out Lisa Frank on social media for their role in me losing Cloudland and their performative allyship in the midst of the police shootings and Black Lives Matter protests. They were one of those companies that posted a black square, and I'm pretty sure that's all they did. In 2020, Lisa Frank responds with a tone-deaf, mean-spirited, and racist post accusing and I quote, opportunistic individual for using this historic moment to blame their personal failings on the Lisa Frank brand. They never addressed me directly, but we all knew who they were talking about because they referenced getting evicted and denied that the hotel pop-up had anything to do with this person that they didn't name losing their home. Everyone knew that they were talking about me, even though they didn't have the courage to name me. In 2023, Maxine Productions, the maker of like the Nickelodeon docuseries and other docuseries, reached out to see if I wanted to be a part of the Lisa Frank docuseries after hearing about my story. I agreed to tell my story, and in 2024, the docuseries and my interview is released. It's called Glitter and Greed, and it's on Amazon Prime Video. I'm in episode 4. In 2025, I published this video talking about my experience with Lisa Frank, filming the docuseries, and basically explaining why I was in the docuseries. People keep bringing up suing, and it makes total sense because what happened was insane. But that is like definitely the thing that people want to know the most. Did I sue? Can I sue? Will I sue? I appreciate the support so much, and that, that this story is actually much bigger than me. Brands and companies and wealthy people have been stealing from independent artists and creators, and specifically from Black artists and creators, and even more specifically from Black women and queer people since the beginning of all of this, right? And it's only seeming to happen more and more frequently. And the only thing really that you can do is seek legal action. I understand, but it's a little complicated, okay? So suing isn't as easy as one might think. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. Did I sue? First of all, there were a lot of people involved in this BS, okay? There was the building and where I live. That's the first question I get. Like, why did you just leave? Why didn't you go through the legal system? It's illegal to refuse rent in California. Yes, all of that is true, true, true. By the time that our building refused my rent, there was already a lot of shady things going on that we didn't know about. They wouldn't put anything in writing. No, they literally did not tell me why they would not accept my rent. They wouldn't put it in writing either. They were doing things that we realized later to try to stall us by like not giving us answers and things like that. Because by the time we did reach out to like a housing attorney that was like helping us for like very little money, we found out that they had said they served us with papers and they said they did all of this stuff and they didn't do any of it. The case had already progressed against us before I even found out that my rent was being rejected. You know, like these things would have had to have been already set in motion before we tried to pay the rent. Talking about what was going on in real time was like the only reason why we didn't have to like get thrown out with the sheriff or whatever. Like the only reason why we were able to like leave and paint and like take our things and stuff is because we got legal help, and also because I was making noise about it. And they were like, okay, you need to like, it was the only leverage that we had. Otherwise, we were going to be in a very big pickle. Okay. It was not good. So that's what happened there. We did everything that we could, actually. It's not true that we didn't fight. A lot of people think that. And a lot of people have asked me like, why did you just leave? Well, you know, the odds were stacked against us. But by the time we figured out what was going on, things had already progressed in such a heinous way, you know? So we did everything we could. We fought back legally. We settled and then we moved. And that is what happened there. Like, we did the best we could, but the odds were definitely not in our favor. And we really didn't have a lot of choices. Much as why didn't you sue is why didn't you buy a house? Why did you do all of that in an apartment? Why don't you just buy a house? Buy a house next time. Listen, I would love to buy a house. A Cloudland house would be magical. And actually, you know, the real crazy thing is perhaps if this never happened to me, I would have been able to buy a house. You know, perhaps if my career wasn't taken from like underneath me, I probably would have been able to buy a house. Many people who started doing what I'm doing are in that position. So it just pisses me off because it actually makes it seem like I did something wrong. I didn't actually do anything wrong. There was nothing wrong with how I decorated my space. And I honestly, when we left, I fully intended to return it to the state that it was in. And the only thing I was risking was a security deposit. For people to keep telling me that, oh, you should have known better doing that in an apartment, or you should buy a house, you should have bought a house. It's just a little ridiculous. Also, not to mention the fact that, like I said, people do this for a living now. People transform their rental spaces all the time and turn it into careers. Please stop asking me why I don't just buy a house. Houses are expensive. I live in LA. Houses cost a lot of money here. And I don't know, people say a lot of things, and I should not get wound up because of the things that people say, but when you hear something so many times, it gets to be a little much. Like, yeah, I've been hearing that so much with talking about everything. Again, I didn't do anything wrong. I just showed up, I put my heart out there, and I was just honestly sharing it all because I wanted other people to. I was so freaking happy about Cloudland that I got excited. And I was like, I need to show people how I did this. I need to document this. Like when I was doing the flower wall, I was like, okay, I need to make sure that I am documenting this. And because I want to show other people how easy it is to surround yourself with things that you love and that bring you joy. Because, you know, when something really good happens for you, like, don't you just want to share it with everybody? I had found something magical and I just wanted to share it with everybody, and I wanted everyone to have that experience too. That's really what Cloudland is all about, because if it was just about like me having a beautiful space or me having my favorite place, I wouldn't have shared it like that. I would have let it be in the background. Oh, and the thing that I really wanted to share, and one of the reasons why it was so inspiring to me is because I couldn't afford to buy a house. I thought I had to wait until I had enough money to own a home in order to live in a place that I truly loved. And I made the decision that I wasn't going to do that. Like, it was my big thing at the time. Like, I'm not going to wait until I lose weight. I'm not going to wait until I have a certain amount of money or whatever to like live my life. I'm going to make my life the best that it can be right now with what I have. And that's what I did. Not everyone can afford to buy a house. And if you can, that's wonderful. Like, I love that for you. And not everyone wants to buy a house. That's the other thing. Just to be clear, right? Regardless of your situation, I wanted people to know that it was like really doable to create a space that you loved, you know, and to do it for no other reason than it just made you happy. So the fact that it was an apartment was kind of an important part of it. You know what I'm saying? It made it cooler because it means that like everyone can have access to like joy. Oh my God, when I tell people this, every time I tell this story and I tell people, okay, so I had just found out that I was autistic and I was in autistic burnout. It's so frustrating because people actually don't have a concept for what that means unless they are a late diagnosed autistic person, like a late in life, you know, realized autistic adult. I think those are the only people who really understand that experience or just otherwise neurodivergent and finding out later in life because it changes everything in your life like that. Well, okay, no, that's crazy. It does. Basically, what I mean to say is what it was like for me is it was very head spinning. I didn't actually I didn't actually have a real understanding of what it meant to be autistic. I just knew that I had an explanation, perhaps, for why I struggled so much. And that was a good thing. That was the best part of it. I always was like, what's wrong with me or whatever. And then I realized that there's not anything wrong with me. This is just how my brain works and who I am. That part is great. Wonderful. But then there's a part where it's like you tell all your friends or you tell people and they treat you differently, or maybe they don't even talk to you again. I completely stopped talking to several of my family members because of how they acted. Basically, it's a really difficult, stressful, potentially traumatic experience. And many of us, as I did, find out that we're autistic when we're in the middle of a crisis, and I was. I was completely burned out from making Cloudland and doing all this work. Anyway, long story long, the point that I'm making here is I was not okay. By the time, like what happened with my apartment and Lisa Frank and also MGA, the maker of Bratz, and more importantly, LOL Surprise, what happened with these companies was kind of like some insane perfect storm to try to destroy me. Okay? Like, because I was already not okay. I was barely hanging on and I was trying to like get my bearings because like I said earlier, there was like publishers saying, hey, we want to do a book with you. There's like people saying, hey, you know, I was taking meetings and doing meetings for like TV shows. It was crazy. So I was trying everything I could to pull it together. But when that happened, it just kind of wiped me out. And the worst part is that I didn't really understand how not well I was until I started seeing some really major consequences. And one of those consequences was that I was very susceptible to scams, people tricking me. There's a helicopter and people with not great intentions and people who were looking to take advantage. And unfortunately, that's what happened. We hired some lawyers to see if there was anything that we could do in terms of like intellectual property theft with what happened with Lisa Frank. All I'll say is they were also handling the MGA thing, and I'm going to tell that whole story later. That's a story for another time. But suffice to say is that we paid the lawyers thousands of dollars to basically tell us that there was nothing we could do. And I remember because they cited the Museum of Ice Cream and they were like, yeah, we have this client. I don't remember if the artist or Museum of Ice Cream was their client, which one was their client, but they were like, yeah, we have this case with Museum of Ice Cream and they're being sued by an artist, but because it's not the exact same, there's really nothing that can be done. And so that was like what they said it was in my case. Companies know how to steal. Companies know how to steal, in a way that is not, technically illegal, technically fightable. Also, certain companies are extremely litigious and are, well practiced at stealing and at getting away with it and at turning the tables on the independent artist or the person that they're stealing from. The question, did I sue? Because everyone wants to know. I tried to do everything I could to protect myself, to protect Cloudland, to fight for what was taken from me. But at the time, what I realized is that the only thing I could really fight for is my life. That's what I decided to focus on. I decided to focus on trying to take care of myself because I was at a place where I just could not handle any more like stress or trauma. So I eventually just like let go of everything, like, let go, like whatever, trying to do something about it, trying to fight back. And instead I decided the best way that I could fight back is by taking care of myself, continue to make art, and like pick myself up off the ground and move forward and create the things that I want to create in the world. So that is a decision that I made. And I'm proud of that decision. If you do have the means and the resources, I think you should try to pursue legal action. And I understand why so many people have told me about that. The other thing, though, that is really important is to protect the creative work that you're doing beforehand. And I recognize that that's something that I need to do. I've gotten that feedback and I've gotten that, a lot of people telling me that. And I understand that that's something that I need to do. I am doing everything I can actually to try and trademark, my things so that they're protected beforehand. So it will be less of a terrible, terrible battle if somebody does decide that they want to come in and try to take something that I created. If you want to support what I'm doing, if you want to help contribute to legal fees and me being able to protect what I'm creating and what I've created, I have a GoFundMe. And so that's what that's for. It's for rebuilding Cloudland and protecting Cloudland. So if that's something. So I am definitely ready to create a new Cloudland in my current space. It's something that I've been working on. I'm really excited to turn this space into a magical space. It's something I actually really need. I really actually need to be surrounded by color and my favorite things to cope with life. And I mean that quite literally. Uh, so I'm quite anxious actually to like move forward and bring another Cloudland project to life. I hear from people often about how exciting it would be and fun it would be to like watch a new Cloudland come to life. And it's something I'm really excited about too. The snag is that it is actually a little bit more difficult than I thought it was going to be. I've been reaching out to brands and things just aren't exactly the same. It's not like 2017. There's like a whole war against DEI, and a lot of Black creators are like being overlooked. To be queer, Black, and autistic right now, and to be a creator and an artist and, looking for freelance work, I mean, it's a struggle. I've had a hard time getting brands to work with me. and getting the same kind of opportunities that I see other people who are doing the dopamine decor trend have. The trend that I actually paved the way for. So that is why I haven't just done Cloudland yet. So I'm going to start little by little. That's exactly what I did in Cloudland part 1. I'm going to just start with what I have and try to move forward from there. So basically the reason why I even started talking about all of this again is because, you know, I have been doing my best trying to put myself out there. Like, I'm making art, and I get excited about it and I want to share it. Like, recently I've been sharing a lot about like my painted overalls. I love my overalls. I'm wearing Karopi today. I'm talking so fast. Let me, um, okay, so today I'm wearing Karopi overalls. They're very cute. I feel, look at, let me stop moving. You see? And I also have this, not completely not related. I'm also wearing this Hello Kitty Bart Simpson sweater. I mean, it's related to Karopi, but not related to why I showed you my outfit. Basically, I love overalls, and I've been sharing my overalls that I like. I like painting them. Yeah, I started sharing that, and I've been sharing my blobs and my Tasselfairy friend creatures that I like drawing, and you know, it's been really great just to put myself back out there again. But one thing that keeps happening is I keep getting comparisons to Lisa Frank. You know, someone will find me on Instagram for the first time and that's one of the first things that they say. And I was just like, oh, I know that people mean it as a compliment. I'm just, because I'm just assuming the best. Why is this pissing you off so bad? Like, you know that your art is your own and whatever. You do your own thing, and that, from what I understand, Lisa Frank didn't even draw any of that stuff. This is a brand. And so normally comparisons like don't bother me. I just don't like them. And then I had to realize that I think that I'm still really upset about it. Like, you know, grief happens in like layers. You don't automatically like just heal from something and then you understand it. I mean, at least that's not what it's been like for me. Healing from this has been extremely complicated, and you know, the trauma is kind of intense because the loss was so huge. I think the impact of what I lost finally hit me because I felt a lot of shame connected to like not being able to protect my art and to protect Cloudland, and shame that I couldn't bounce back sooner. I think it was blocking me from being able to feel like the true loss. I paved the way for that whole genre of DIY interior design and like interior decor spaces. You know, basically before Cloudland, people were not revamping their rental space into a dream world like just because it made them happy like that. You know, maybe there were people doing that somewhere in the world. I'm not so delusional to think that I'm the only person that has an idea, but I am definitely one of the first, if not the first, people to document the process and share it on social media, you know? And so to realize that that's what they took away. When you are early to something like that, the benefits can be huge. In fact, the thing that actually was going on at the time, right when all of this happened back in 2019, is I had my lit agent was telling me like, okay, I was actually working on a book proposal, and my lit agent was like, I think I could get like a bidding war for this book. There were already 3 separate publishing houses contacting me directly. Okay? That's not like super normal. I had never experienced it because there was nothing else like it. There was nothing else quite like what I did in Cloudland. I was setting myself up to be able to have real financial security in a way that is really hard in the creative field. And so that was taken away from me, as well as no one knows that like I pretty much paved the way for this whole genre. Dopamine decor is so trendy right now and people are making entire careers off of it, but that wasn't really a thing before Cloudland. That trauma is very complicated when you are still living in the aftermath of it, because I'm still kind of like, I'm doing my best, but like I'm scraping by like many other people in a way that maybe I wouldn't have been if I was not attacked in the way that I was attacked. I had no idea how much I was carrying until I started getting the comparisons. And so I decided that the best thing I could possibly do is to try to talk about it and to attempt at like some type of catharsis, to like talk more about it and also spread the word and tell my story, because if I don't tell my story, who else is going to? This is different. This is a new day. I am coming back for my things. And before it was called Dopamine Decor, it was called Cloudland. And I am not going to be participating in the erasure of Black art and creativity. The next phase of this healing journey that I'm on is to celebrate it. So in the meantime, while I am trying to move my current Cloudland project forward, I'm going to be doing kind of like a Cloudland retrospective. I'm going to celebrate this magical thing that I achieved and at the same time move forward and create more magic. The other thing that's really cool about talking about what happened with Cloudland is that even though it was hard and upsetting, sharing it made so many other people feel less alone. A lot of people have gone through something like this. More people than you would imagine have had their work or something they really care about stolen from them. And I think it's important that I continue to talk about both what I contributed with my creativity that I shared with everyone and how it was taken away and the harm that that did. I think it's important to tell these stories and to know that I am like giving anyone any comfort and feeling less alone, or inspiring you to keep going after you've been knocked down. Like, that means everything to me. So before I get like ridiculously emotional, I'm just gonna say thank you. Okay, thank you. I love you. Bye.